Jessie had a hard time in life. Her father died heroically in a hot spot when she was young. Her mother raised the girl, pulling her weight alone, trying to provide for her daughter. But she didn't do a very good job. Jessie Diana's mother, she was sickly. At times she was on sick leave for months until her employer hinted to her that he did not need workers who were always sick. And once again she resigned. Her mother shut herself in her room, sobbing into her pillow with helplessness. He and my mother were always short of money. Sometimes there was only bread for dinner, which the girl dipped in salted sunflower oil or empty pasta. She was the worst-dressed girl in her class. Children can be angry. They say what they see. In class, Jessie was considered an outsider. The poorness of her clothes was discussed by all the girls. She was used to the taunts of her classmates, chatting at the back of the classroom about how Jessie came dressed in a stitched-up sweater today, too. When Jessie turned 14, her mother passed away. An aunt, her late mother's sister, took over her niece's upbringing. Jessie was no better off there either. Aunt Kimberly called the girl a slacker and lazy, but she had no appetite for work or housekeeping. Kimberly knew right away that Jessie was old enough. She could be used to running the house. Auntie hinged all the household chores on her niece and also drove the girl to the nearest store for wine, the place where the liquor can borrow Kimberly's best friend working there. Aunt Kimberly liked to have a little red in the evening, and when there was no money for wine, she didn't mind running to a neighbor for moonshine. At the end of the month, they steamed some butter on the bread. Money did not linger in the hands of Kimberly. After distributing debts, the aunt and nieces were broke. The tipsy aunt kept singing the same song, "Abusa, when will you get married?" which often brought her niece to tears. The same friend who sold Jessie wine for her aunt had a son. Maria worked in her son's store. Kimberly was fiercely jealous of their family's wealth. More than once her aunt started conversations with Jessie about whether she liked her friend's son, but the girl just kept quiet. When Jessie became an adult, Kimberly began to describe her life with her son Maria. But more she thought not about the girl, but about their own well-being. If Jessie becomes the wife of a shopkeeper, she will not be offended. She would be able to go to the store without taking any money with her. If you become related to the generous Maria, she will give her groceries for free. You don't have to pay back your debts. Kimberly owes her friend a considerable amount of money. But the grown-up niece was in no hurry to introduce her aunt into the well-fed world she had invented. Always submissive, Jessie suddenly began to shout that she would not solve her aunt's financial problems. She was getting on her nerves. Every day she was pressuring the girl to marry her friend's son. One day, Jessie couldn't take it anymore. "I'm not going to solve your financial problems." Then the niece left, slamming the door loudly. When Jessie returned some time later, she packed her things and took a piggy bank with her, which her aunt did not know about. She began collecting money by the dollar since she had been in her house. The money she had saved should have been enough to pay for her room. The girl also remembered to take her father's medal and award documents. The awards were the only memory she had of her father who had died. The order became a talisman for Jessie. The money was enough not only to pay the rent for the old lady's modest apartment, but also for food for the first time. After moving out from her aunt, the girl wondered how she was going to live her life. To go to school was out of the question. After all, she had to pay for her room and live on something while she was studying. One day at the supermarket, Jessie was given a free newspaper that published the city's vacancies. There were many offers, but they were all specialized, and Jessie, who had no education, didn't fit the criteria. Jessie randomly selected the phone number of a company that needed a janitor. Where else would she be hired after high school? All she had to do was wipe the floor with a rag for a living. In the personnel department, she was hired immediately due to particularly toxic staff cleaners in this company did not last. The office had been filthy for 3 days. After signing the employment contract, Jessie immediately began her duties. Going into one of the rooms where there were many computers and office workers sat, Jessie began diligently scrubbing the floors. "What's that smell?" "I don't understand." Jessie flinched at the sharp yell that came from her ear. A beautiful but very angry girl was shouting. She was beautiful with that venomous beauty of movie villain heroines. Black eyebrows, almond-shaped evil eyes, raven-winged hair, high cheekbones, a sharp chin, and even an evergreen strand of tarred hair in the center of her forehead. One look at her was enough to know that this beauty was a vicious one. Still, the girl was more than pretty. "What are you looking at?" "Do not you feel that the mop stinks of rot? Go rinse with detergent." The poisonous beauty commanded authoritatively. As she walked past the two guys sitting near Jessie's exit, she heard them whispering, assessing her figure and other virtues. Jessie was a pretty girl too, but unlike her vis-a-vis, who chased the new janitor to rinse the rubber mop roller, her beauty was gentle and soft. Jessie had kind facial features, big gray eyes, a high forehead, childishly plump lips, and blonde, thick hair, gathered carelessly into a ponytail with a simple terry cloth rubber band. Even the old, out-of-fashion baggy clothes could not hide her thin waist and high breasts. Shyly lowering her eyes with a mop in her hand, she reminded the boys of poor Cinderella, scolded by one of your stepmother's daughters. They shared these observations in quiet whispers, so they wouldn't be heard by the local office Serena, Nicole. She was the one who scolded Jessie. At the same time, they shared their impressions of the new cleaning lady. The girl was definitely nice. Only her clothes and shoes were cheesy. Only in vain did the guys think that Nicole did not hear their whispers. The queen of the office had a great ear. All evil women who love to do bad things to others have it. Before Jessie had even left the room, Nicole was already enthusiastically discussing every part of her poor old closet with her female colleagues. Jessie wanted to break the mop over her knee and tell everyone to go to hell, but the memory of her own plight stopped her. Not giving vent to the flood of emotions, she rinsed a rubber roller, then returned to the office and again began to wash the floors, not paying attention to taunts of the female half of the team. Every day spent at work seemed to her like hell. Nicole managed to turn against the new cleaner not only the employees, but also the bosses. Only one guy sympathized with the girl, the same one who called her Cinderella the first time he met her. One day, he secretly waited for Jessie outside the office because the cleaning lady's workday ended later than the other employees. After waiting, Gregory invited her to the cafe. They chatted merrily. Gregory seemed like an open and kind guy to Jessie. But the next day, in one of the long corridors of the office, one of Nicole's friends approached her. "You're a fool to find someone to hook up with. Gregory is Nicole's boyfriend, and they're getting married. She'll kill you if I tell her you went to the cafe with him. Nicole's about to be head of the department. That'll be fun for you." The girl said sneeringly. The next day, Jessie had an unpleasant surprise waiting for her. When she entered the room where the department in which Nicole worked was located, immediately the song, "Hello, Secondhand Girl," began to play, and Nicole herself, with a serious face, began to ask her at which flea market she could buy the same vintage blouse as Jessie's broken boots on her feet, Nicole referred to as a rarity from the NKVD torture chamber, and Spanish boots, devising all new elaborate mockery of each item of clothing from the girl's closet. The employees presented Jessie's humiliation politely, giggled at Nicole's wicked jokes, not wanting to quarrel with the snide careerist. Gregory never called Jessie to the cafe again, inadvertently bumping into the young cleaning lady in the hallway. The guy would hide his eyes in embarrassment and avert his gaze. He couldn't look into the eyes of the girl he liked so much. He was ashamed and disgusted at his betrayal, for he was giggling along with everyone else, present for the spectacle Nicole had played out. He had long disliked Nicole, but he dared not even hint that they should break off their relationship. Gregory Rue liked the office job, was happy with the pay. He didn't want to get into a fight with the future head of the department. Gregory's type is commonly referred to as an opportunist. The guy hoped for career advancement to win a place in the sun by any means, let them trample sincere feelings, and even betray their barely born love. After the harassment arranged by the cleaning lady, who dared to claim her fans, Nicole looked like a satisfied, well-fed vampire. The queen of the office was satisfied with Jessie's public humiliation, so much that she even left the young janitor alone for a while. The ego raised in Jessie's soul was immediately confronted with the truth of life. If she quit this job, she risked losing her paycheck. When she signed, she didn't read the employment contract. But later, when she went to talk about quitting at Human Resources, she was told that if she left before the stipulated deadline, without working at least 1 month, she risked not getting a penny. Allegedly, it was written in the employment contract. I was sorry to lose the money I earned, so I had to stay. The piggy bank money was almost all gone. In addition, Jessie was now taking care of the little pet. She couldn't leave Martin hungry. Did a little white kitten somehow miraculously sneak into the office? Jessie had to hide it from the evil Nicole for the rest of the day. Good soul. She couldn't leave a helpless 1-month-old kitten on the street, so she took him home. The kind old lady in one of the rooms where Jessie lived didn't mind the kitty at all. Jessie named the kitten Martin. And when there was almost no money at all, the girl shared her last kiffer with the pets. The long-awaited payday coincided with the day when the boss intended to visit the office. He was the head of the entire network of branches and businesses. The boss was feared by everyone but Nicole. She managed to gain the former military chief's trust, liked her sharp mind, predatory beauty, boldness, and audacity. When the bosses were making their rounds of his domain, the chief did not fail to look into the department of his favorite. On seeing him, Nicole rose from her seat and hurried to meet him, accidentally snagging her elbow standing on the windowsill of a massive computer chair, an under-caffeinated coffee. From the silently fallen on the floor paper cup, poured the remains of coffee, quickly kicked the dirty cup under the table Nicole blurred in a friendly smile, and walked up to the boss. "Hello, Kevin. What took you so long to come? We missed you." Nicole mercifully folded her beautifully contoured lips into a tube, as if she wanted to kiss the chief. Then she cast a vengeful glance at Jessie, who was wiping the photocopier with a napkin, and continued. "However, you know, we don't get bored around here. The hiring manager is hiring a lot of people. The new cleaning lady cleans the office out of the blue. It's like sitting in a pigsty." Nicole gently took the chief under her arm and led him to his workstation, pointing her finger at the stain left by the coffee spill. Made by the anger, Nicole nodded toward Jessie. Do you see how our cleaning lady cleans? My workspace is ignored altogether. Doesn't clean here at all. It's always dusty and dirty now." Kevin furrowed his brow. He was not yet an old man, imposing with a military bearing. Nicole knew full well that the pedantic chief didn't like messes, so she decided to set up an upstart she thought was her rival. "Come into my office," leaving dryly through Jessie's boss. His tone did not bode well. "Why is the office a mess? Why are you so bad at your job duties?" The chief scrutinized the flaming face of the embarrassed girl. It was cleaned well. Where the stain and dirt came from, I don't know. With difficulty, Jessie squeezed out of herself. "It's just that the office doesn't like me. Nicole is always picking on me. She probably spilled the coffee on purpose. She just wants you to fire me." Suddenly, the girl became bolder in front of her superiors. Kevin tapped the pen cap on the table thoughtfully. You seem like a nice girl. Why are the office workers so hostile to you? I don't know. Who are you? I don't know. Introduce yourself. Jessie said her first and last name. Hearing a rather rare and unusual last name, Jessie chief worried. And what is your middle name? What's your father's name? Jessie lowered her head, but proudly raised it again. My father's name was Yuri. He died. But the boss interrupted the girl, continuing for her. He was a friend of mine in the North Caucasus. The captain died after being mortally wounded. And he saved me by pulling me out of the line of fire. Then he thought for a long moment. Jessie stood opposite, shifting from foot to foot. The silence lingered. That's it. You said Nicole was hazing the office. I'll take care of it. Go on, get back to work. Tomorrow, I'll tell her to hire another cleaning lady. It's not right for the daughter of a hero to mop the floor. You'll go to school. Is your mother alive? Jessie shook her head in the negative. How long has she been alive? The girl nodded affirmatively. She's an orphan then. Do you have a place to live? Jessie shrugged her shoulders. Lived with an aunt. Now I'm renting a room. The chief clenched his hand on the table and made a fist so hard it sawed his knuckles. We'll figure it out. That day, Jessie ran to her rented apartment, not feeling her feet with happiness. Wow, her first paycheck, and even more than a generous bonus. Running into the pet store, she bought some cat patties for Martina. When she saw a toy for kittens, she bought that too. She was very proud of herself that day. She'd become a real provider. She'd be able to feed herself and the kitty. And most importantly, happiness. The chief on the same day calculated nasty Nicole, who had spoiled Jessie's life so much. Now no one will humiliate and mock her old ugly clothes, although now she may well buy herself something new. After feeding Martin, the girl ran to get some new clothes. But the next day was even more wonderful. When Jessie arrived at the office, she was surprised to see some unfamiliar, older woman mopping the floors. Jessie was approached by the personnel officer. He brought a new contract, and she was hired as a customer service operator. In the afternoon, the chief arrived. He again invited Jessie into his office, where he handed her the keys to her apartment. The key to my second apartment. I once bought this apartment for future children, but no children yet. Live there. My friend's daughter shouldn't be living in rented rooms. Oh, I have a cat. Can I get a kitten in there? I'm not going anywhere without Martin, Jessie said. Nikolai Ivanovich laughed merrily. You can at least come in with an alligator. The apartment has been empty for a long time. You'll be in the housekeeper next to the kitty. After getting her things, and Martin, Jessie said goodbye warmly to the old lady, from who she rented a room, and moved into a spacious 3-room apartment. After the move, Jessie didn't run to work, she flew. Even though she was listed as a simple operator, she almost didn't make any calls. The chief treated his friend's daughter like his own child. He bought new clothes, bought appliances for the apartment where she lived, took her into the firm's business. The childless soldier saw Jessie as his successor. He wished that if anything happened to him, that Jessie could replace him in all areas concerning the operation of the network of offices and businesses. It was only Kimberly's aunt who kept saying there was no money for training. A friend of Jessie's late father insisted on going to university to study economics. With surprise, looking at the transformation in the appearance and behavior of the former janitor on the attitude of management to her, Gregory immediately found the courage to tell Nicole that their relationship is over. He absolutely did not hurt Nicole with this statement. The girl had long considered him unpromising, trying to woo her boss's son in his new job. After getting a free pass from the former queen of the office, the opportunist tried to establish a relationship with Jessie, but the girl already knew his worth, so she turned down his offer to go out on the weekend. Jessie turned him down briefly and coldly with surprise, remembering how she might have liked such a lowlife before. The cunning opportunist was left with nothing. Neither Nicole nor Jessie needed him. How could she ever have suffered for him, cried over his betrayal, when he had beckoned her and then defected to Nicole? Where were my eyes? What could there be to like about a man like Gregory? Unless he was sweet and marmalade-faced, and I was still suffering from unrequited love, even crying, and blaming myself for Jessie's past short-sightedness. Once buying food in a pet store for Martin, Jessie knocked from the shelf one of the cans with paid, deftly picked up a strong hand, cannot flew to the floor. "Don't you skimp on the kitties. It's good food." Setting the can down, nodding approvingly at the bag of cat food in Jessie's hands, said the tall, unfamiliar guy, trying to love him just. Astonished by the young man's dexterity and quick response, Jessie was a little confused. "I love my cat. He's a Savannah." "What kind of cat do you have?" the boy inquired. "And I have a pedigree breed Russian Podobrashny, from the nobility." Girl joked back. "He snuck into our office. I picked him up so that one evil bitch did not throw him out the window. That's how I kept the cat. Named him Martin." Suddenly, out of the blue, Jessie came out of the blue. Not 10 minutes after they had met, boy and girl were chatting, as if Oliver, an old acquaintance, understood Jessie's jokes, and Jessie liked his openness and his views on life, which he willingly shared with her. Without Jessie noticing, Oliver walked the girl home. They stood outside the driveway for a long time, chatting about everything. They wanted to talk to each other. Jessie and Oliver did not want to leave, but it was already too dark outside. Jessie thought it was unseemly to be so obviously attracted to each other on the first day, but Oliver got ahead of her, saying that he didn't want to leave, but that it was decent. It was as if he had read her mind. As she climbed the stairs, Jessie was surprised to think that it turned out to be all true about impulses, about union of souls, about her man. She spent the whole night without sleep, replaying in her head the plots of novels, read to the holes, where the heroes met their soulmate. In the morning, completely sleepless, Jessie got ready for work. For the first time in a long time, she didn't want to go. She wanted to run to the store to try to find Oliver. They had even forgotten to exchange phone numbers as they talked. Imagine my surprise when she saw him coming out of the entryway. "You know, I couldn't get away from you. Just ran home to feed the cat and then came back to your house again. All night long I've been staring at your window." The guy pointed to the second-floor window where Jessie lived. "And you weren't sleeping either. I saw that the light in your bedroom was on all night. It was fate, you know. It was meant to be. You're mine and I'm yours. End of story," said Oliver, drawing the girl to him, greedily inhaling the scent of her hair.